Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August 23rd iteration of the Kubernetes SIG Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Let's get started with some announcements. Today should be 125 release day. I know yesterday all of the different sub-teams on the release team gave a go signal, so I think that I don't think that there's any blockers for the release. So excited to see all of the work that was done over this release kind of get out to customers or users. Does anybody else have any announcements they'd like to add or anything they'd like to share? James, is that a happy reaction?
That's a clap.
Okay, yeah. I saw that, and then I saw you turn your camera on, so I was like, "Oh, are you gonna add something?" Yeah, exciting times. So start planning for 126 pretty soon too. All right, next, we can, if there's any new contributors here, we can kind of let them say hi. Actually, I don't see anybody new on the call. Oh, you see a couple new people. So yeah, if anybody's new here, we give a couple minutes if anybody wants to introduce themselves or say hi, what they're working on, what they hope to gain out of this, but no obligation to do so. All right, I'll go on to the agenda. First agenda item is something that I added. Let me see where to start. So as if anybody's kind of been joined for a while, we have a GitHub board that we use to track all of the different issues and PRs for SIG Windows. This was the old style GitHub board. The new GitHub projects have been kind of out of beta recently. So I was experimenting with some of those, and I created a new GitHub project specifically for SIG Windows issues. I had one of my kind of pet peeves where the old board kind of mixed the issues and the PRs in a way that was hard to kind of separate them. But anyway, the new GitHub projects board, I don't know if people are familiar with the new GitHub projects, they're very flexible. You can view them as spreadsheets. There's a lot of filtering, and it actually makes it very easy to switch the view to the old boards. So I think pretty much nothing was lost, but there's a lot of benefits here. One important update with this project board is I have also added automation, and that's running right now in the SIG Windows tools repository that will every day, I think at like 6 a.m. PST, scrape all of the different Kubernetes repositories and add issues to the board. So hopefully things don't get lost. There is one big limitation right now, and that's that on these new project boards through the APIs, you cannot add issues from other orgs to a project board. So that means you can't add through automation any of the issues in the Kubernetes SIGs repositories with that. I've got some issues open and got the ear of some of the GitHub project people to try and get that resolved. But yeah, if anybody's interested in helping out, I hope to start using this at our biweekly like triage and backlog refinement meeting. But yeah, just let us know if there's any feedback. I'll probably try and do the same thing and make either another project board or add PRs to this board so that we can start tracking them. But we'll see how everybody likes using this. Yeah, you can make different views on the same issues and save them, which is also very nice. I think it's a lot better than using the little text filter in the old boards. Yep, so there's a link to the board. I can link to the automation and the scripts that are adding this if people are interested too. But yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah, and we do triage every other week on Thursdays, and everybody's welcome to join us. We kind of just go through the issues and figure out, something's an actual issue, or if we can answer it right away, or if we need more investigation and that type of thing. So.
Yeah, it's at the same time as this meeting. So 9:30 PST, 12:30 EST, every other Thursday. I think there's a Slack bot reminder too. That's all I've got for that, unless people have questions. Arvind, Do you want to share? Got the next agenda item?
I don't have anything to share as such, but I just wanted to drop this in there. I could show a demo if people wanted, but I don't know. So what I've done with the node log VR now is, instead of using a separate service and path options, there is a single option that says -- query. And I think, did I link to the wrong PR?
This looks like the test PR.
Yeah, sorry, I'll fix that.
Is it linked to from this PR?
I'll send it in the chat and I'll fix the doc.
Okay.
I think this is Fabian's PR that uses the
Yeah.
API. Yeah, so this.
All right.
All right, I've also fixed the other PR. Yeah, so now what this does is it uses the query endpoint to query both files and services. So you can do things like -- query equals, maybe I can just show a quick demo.
Yeah, that
We
might
have
be.
time.
All right, I stopped sharing. Let me know if you have issues sharing.
Yeah, let's see. I haven't shared for a while using. Are you folks able to see this window? This
I
terminal?
am, yes.
Okay. So let me increase the font size. So I'm using the SIG Windows DevTools environment to bring up my stuff. So I have these two instances here. There's a control plane and there's the Windows instance. So now if I look at the alpha command, I can do something like kubectl alpha node logs. I'm using a row option and saying I want to query. I just dropped a file called test.log inside a test directory, and it'll give you an output that says node log VR test because that's what's there. You can also look at the output of all the files that are in that location, and then you can query any of these files. Now, alternatively, if I do something like kubelet, it will show me like basically the kubelet logs for that node. You can also do containerd, and it'll show me like containerd logs. You're also able to query the nodes directly. So I can do something like OC node logs. I think it's control plane. Let me make sure.
Can you do that for a Windows node too?
Oh yeah, I'll do it for Windows also. I can also do something like this. What is the name of the? So here you can see I've queried for a service called test. The logic figures out that this is not a journal log, a service. It's log into a file, and it has a heuristics to go and look through all the files, and it'll show you this. So I can do the same thing for Windows. Yeah, so for example, I'm querying, I don't know, I found this service called Microsoft Windows MS-DTC. I have no idea what it does, but it'll show you the logs, hopefully. I've also noticed that getting the logs from the Windows instances takes a little bit longer. And I also noticed that I've given a 30-second window for getting all the logs. If your logs are really big on Windows, it gets truncated after a while, or you don't sometimes see the full logs. You can also do, like, for example, yeah. So if I want to look at the kubelet error log, you can see that. You can do the same things that you do with on the Linux side.
Nice. Yeah.
So all of it is working now. I don't know what the response from Tim and Jordan are going to be. So I'm just going to wait for that. The only thing that so the way I've done it is I look to see if the query looks like a file. I change the API that gets served, the REST endpoint that gets served. I don't know if that's going to be acceptable, or they're going to say that on the kubelet side, you get the query and then you change what gets served. But again, I couldn't decide which is better or which is worse. So that's why I just said I want to get this reviewed as early as possible, so that we have time if I need to get it fixed. The only other work that needs to be done, I think, in addition to whatever Tim and Jordan asked me to do, is our end-to-end tests. And I think Fabian has already started working on it. And he had mentioned that he would be able to continue to help out. If not, if Fabian is busy and I can also try and look at his PR and move that to using the new query endpoint.
I would hope that like a lot. I think a lot of the feedback that especially Tim was giving seemed to be really around the usability of the UX around this. So I would hope that what you had mentioned, like how it actually happened under the hood, could be kind of some leeway could be there, especially since this is going to be an alpha feature, because I don't think that would change the kubectl experience, right? If we had to send over the query to the kubelet and have the kubelet decide.
Yeah, I don't think that'll. Yeah, it shouldn't make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what they say. Hopefully, we can get some review bandwidth from them soon.
Yeah, I've tagged them on the PR. I'm going to wait for a week, and then I might ping Tim again on Slack and see if he has cycles to review.
And so this works, like if kubelet is not booting or something, this still works to grab logs and things. Is that, or how? Like,
you need the kubelet running.
You do need kubelet. Okay, but if you can't just start containers or something, you can.
Correct. Yeah.
That's cool.
The minimum requirement is kubelet is healthy and up and running, or that endpoint that the kubelet uses is being served.
Sure. Yeah.
But the node doesn't have to be ready.
The kubelet, you'll be able to see those.
But the node doesn't have to be ready, or containers could be crashing and that type of thing. So that's cool. And then can you is ETW events wired in at all, or is that?
ETW events are not wired in, but it could be wired in. At the moment, I used to remember this, but then I've stopped keeping able to remember this off the top of my mind. But I can tell you that in Windows, the current thing that I'm looking at is the application logs. So I'm doing something like,
because with the ETW events, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of how ETW events work in Windows, but one of the things is like you need a listener to listen to the ETW events and then serve them however you want. And most of the time, like those application logs the application is emitting, it has set up a log listener and is emitting ETW events. I don't know if, like, I don't know if this if it would be appropriate for this kind of functionality to listen to those ETW events, but if there are things already like log collectors for ETW events already set up, then we could scrape those. Oh, you're muted again, Arvin.
Sorry. I think we can definitely augment this, right? Because the same way we are going, the main thing is like, which is what I was getting pushback from Tim, is he wants a query to be really simple. So underneath the hood, inside like where we are creating the logging command, we can figure out, okay, do I go to the application logs, or is there some other command that I need to run? I think that I think should be doable. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be that complicated, because already now I try and figure out, I run a command to figure out, okay, is this an actual application on the Windows side, or is it just a bunch of log files? And if that command returns not found, I basically say, okay, let me go and try the files. So we could do something similar if we want to go to other logging sources to figure out where this service is posting their logs. So I don't think that's going to be that hard.
Awesome. Yeah. Great progress. Thanks for all your persistence. Does anybody have any questions about this? Does anybody have anything else they want to add, or should we give everybody a little bit of time back? I mean, add to the meeting. I didn't see anything else on the agenda.
I joined late as usual, so I don't know if I don't have anything, but I am happy to look at the Windows proxy stuff with you all. But yeah, thanks Arvin for all that log stuff. This has been quite the odyssey. I have one thing about this whole thing, because we're adding this log viewer, this log thing, and then this agent thing keeps coming up. And I have a general question about Windows and agents, and because there's this cluster API node agent that people were talking about at one point, and then OpenShift has one, and we brought it up briefly last time. And I guess Arvin, since you're here, is there any effort anyone's making, and Mark, maybe you knew this because of the SIG node stuff that you're in, has anybody making a general effort around a node agent for Kubernetes that's separate from the kubelet? Because it seems like a common problem a lot of people are working on.
Are you talking about?
Or I'd say SIG node is not. I think cluster API is probably where that ownership is going to come from, and I think James has probably a little bit more up-to-date information than I do. But go ahead, Arvin.
Yeah, all I know is there are things inside the kubelet that is cloud provider specific.
Yeah,
and that is being moved out into separate agents that run on the node. I think it's called CCM.
Yeah, there's the cloud controller manager, and then there's different providers have different infrastructure providers have different cloud control managers. Those have been kind of on a journey to move out of tree for quite a while as well.
Yeah, because there was evidently a race condition with container D and the kubelet that came up that was related to some configuration we saw, and yeah, there's just this need for a Puppet agent. Like you need Puppet, like like you need something like that, and so I don't know, I bring this up a lot, and I'm always curious about it. But
James, I feel like this has been discussed in Cappy quite a bit, or the desire for one, right? But they're always wanting to leave it up to whoever's setting up the nodes.
Sorry, I thought we were talking about like the cloud provider manager agent, but we're talking about something else.
It's a general problem of, so our OpenShift friends, they don't rely on kubeadm. They have their own
Oh,
agent
right.
thing. And then in Cappy, we rely on kubeadm, but we have a race condition with containerd. And the rest of the world has been doing things with Puppet and Salt and all that stuff where you get an agent for free. And I'm like, it's really weird that in Kubernetes, we have this agent called the kubelet, and it doesn't do everything we want it to do. But we
Wait, what
don't have.
agent does OpenShift uses, Jay?
Oh, I might be wrong if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I thought that's the Windows thing that
I
you demoed last, or Sebastian
What do
demoed.
you call it?
Oh, so Sebastian demoed the daemon that runs. Yeah, so you could call it an agent.
Yeah,
That's
whatever. Yeah,
That does the
that's what
actual bootstrapping of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're calling. Okay, all right, that makes sense. But I think so. Are you saying that you want a general? But see, that's going to be difficult, Jay, because I think the Cappy guys, they have a set of requirements of why they need an agent, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to have like one agent that rules them all, you're basically trying to say everything needs to move back into the kubelet sort of thing. And in fact, they're making the effort to make the kubelet smaller.
Yeah, it's not like moving it back into the kubelet. It's just that I feel like we need something like MGMT or Puppet or Salt or something for. I just wish we had something that we all agreed on that someone else maintained that we could use as the glue between the kubeadm and the kubelet, like a thing. You know what I mean?
What's the race condition?
Well, there was recently we saw a race condition with something where we were configuring we were configuring containerd and restarting it, and then there's a systemd signal that isn't sent or something from containerd if you restart it or something like that, and that caused some kind of kubeadm bootstrapping flake that can happen from time to time in certain Cappy situations.
Why do you have to restart containerd? Are you like applying a new configuration? And so you lay it down with the default, you have containerd start it, and then you're laying down a new config toml and then restarting it so it's applied?
Yeah, it was something like that. But I feel like something comes up every week where I kind of wonder this. This was a more broader question.
Yeah, I'd be curious of like that restart, because it sounds like the restart is the cause of the race condition and more.
Yeah.
And it sounded like it was specific to Linux.
I think it is. I think it's specific to Linux, but I've always felt like it would be nice to have a Windows agent anyways, right?
I think that if I'm worried that this could go a similar way as like the CCM, the Cloud Controller Manager. I think that some of these agents both have like aspects that are not really coupled to the whatever infrastructure provider, like whatever cloud you're built onto. But then I think in order to be very useful, you'd want some of that to reach back and to the cloud service providers and get information and do some extra hookup, like attach extra disks to it and things like that. And that's where I think everybody's going to have a different opinion, and it's going to be kind of hard to maintain.
Yeah, I don't think this problem will ever get solved, but I just, yeah. And I'm not proposing a solution either. I just kind of like, I feel like there's this weird space where we're modularizing stuff, and there's stuff that's been built before that can solve a lot of these problems that we have. But
yeah. So Jake, could you also describe the problem that you're trying to solve, or this agent will solve?
Yeah, well, I kind of don't think the immutable approach is ideal for Windows. I don't think the immutable VM built by Image Builder is ideal for Windows. I think the best approach for Windows to me feels like something similar to what's being done in OpenShift, where you have a VM and then you reach into the VM and you configure it. Like you have a Windows machine and you go in there and you set it up. But there doesn't seem to be any, there doesn't seem to be any distribution agnostic mechanism for doing that that's idiomatic to the Kubernetes community, right?
I mean, like when you're talking about the image builder images, those are kind of specific to CAPI, right?
I feel like image builder is kind of mostly a CAPI specific thing.
Yeah, well, like I will point out that especially for getting the like all of the CI jobs set up where we want to put in custom versions of the kubelet, custom versions of container D, things like that, we do have, at least in the CAPZ workflows that we're using, have a lot of different cases where we have pre or post kubeadium actions to mutate the immutable image builder image
Yeah.
on the fly too. So it's immutable, but I mean, to some extent, the VHD is that you base it from is immutable, but once it's on the system, we do change it too. So I can see
So
that.
that's the model you go with. Well, you know, in the early days of Kubernetes, we had Salt and we did all the installation through Salt, and it was like, we got rid of it eventually, but I kind of miss those days, you know? But yeah. And Cops is doing the agent thing. I think the Rancher folks are doing an agent. I think everybody's got their own little agent, and everybody's got their own secret agent that's basically doing kind of the same thing.
Yep.
And I don't know what EKS and Azure do because I don't work at those companies, but
Hey, OpenShift's agent is not secret. It's open source.
Yeah.
You can look at this. You can look at the code.
I think that
Yeah.
AKS ones are too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have an
They're all-
agent or anything, but pre-bake everything in the VHD.
Talking about Azure and AKS, I saw this article go out a couple of days back on like moving, Office to Windows containers and AKS. I thought that was pretty big. So a couple of questions. So is this the move from Windows containers running on Service Fabric to AKS? And if so, is it like all of Office, parts of Office, if you can share some additional insights on what moved, because I thought this is a great proof point for customers trying to adopt, Windows containers.
Brendan, do you have some of the specifics on that?
Yeah, yeah. So it was all of the backend services for Office 365, Teams, Skype, pretty much the whole range of things. Yeah, they're running their entire service systems on Windows containers.
And they're like this blog article that I just opened. They're transitioning from Service Fabric, right? I thought that was the case, or.
I believe so in some instances, but not all. Yeah, they have a lot of different services. So,
Sorry, who is that?
Cosmic, Office 365, and Teams and Skype.
Maybe we should see if this Mark Powers, who's talked here, wants to come and give an overview at SIG Windows, like at one of the community meetings. Let me reach out.
I'm sure he'd love to. Yeah.
I think he's out for the
Especially
next
on,
6
like-
days.
Or what was that, Mike?
I think he's out for the next 6 days.
Mm-hmm. And then what was that, Anand?
Yeah, I was just saying, especially on like scale and perf test, right? Obviously running the backend for Office, Skype is no mean feat. And, I'm sure, the scale goes to, tens, if not hundreds of nodes. So any lessons learned, best practices on, how you're able to scale, how much you're able to scale. I think, we presented some perf numbers, last week. I think Andrew presented some, Windows and OpenShift perf numbers. But, any indication you could, guide, us and share some best practices and how, you're able to like, deploy, a lot of containers, a lot of pods to scale the backend for Office, especially Skype, the traffic can be, quite spiky up and down. So any best practices around that, I think would, greatly help the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a lot of internal services that are also just moving on to Windows containers. So we're planning on putting out a whole bunch of information and guides on how to do these things in the future. So definitely.
Awesome.
And I know one of the Windows KubeCon talks is hosted by some engineers at Relativity, and I believe that the talk was similar to that, how they handled some scale issues, like just scale issues that they're into and how they're managing massive workloads of Windows. But yeah, let me see if we can get somebody like this Mark Power or other people to come and give some guidance. And then, sorry, James, I think I cut you off.
I was going to say the same thing. Was that there's that talk at KubeCon, and then there's a few other blog posts out there as well that have been rolling out in the last couple months that are similar and talk about other success stories on Windows containers as well. So
let's see if we can. Yeah, Brandon, let's see if we can get some to be a little bit more like I'm just going through this one right now, and this one seems kind of high level. But maybe some more, detail focused like tips might be helpful too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we
totally.
probably need like a landing page, maybe in the upstream repo with all like talks, presentations. I've been maintaining one for, the local, Windows on OpenShift, and, glad to share, a lot of the information. It's all public as well. But we probably need to aggregate some of these things from, multiple, companies. So, it's a good landing spot for Windows containers. And I think there was some talk from, what like doing like a containers, pre-day or an unconference day. So I think a lot of this, material can feed into that.
Yeah, I've been maintaining a YouTube playlist of all of the like Windows related KubeCon or just other conference talks too. I think that it's on the meeting notes, but I closed that tab. Or like at the top, I'll add that again too. But yeah, these are all great ideas.
I know I know that the folks over at Adobe are doing a lot with Windows containers. Maybe we can get one of them to talk about what they're doing.
Yeah, I think we're over time, so I think I'm gonna stop the meeting. I can stay on for a bit if we want to chat, but let's give everybody some time to. Yeah, these are all great ideas though.